Hello, I'm Melissa Nadworny, and you're listening to NPR's Book of the Day. Today we have two novels that will make you laugh out loud. In a moment, we'll hear about Daniel Mason's new novel called Country People. But first, a novel about what you inherit, both good and bad, and real and imagined. It's called The Great Wherever by Shannon Sanders, and it's a story about multiple generations of a family in the South. There are ghosts, but it's not scary. Sanders talked with Weekend Edition's Scott Simon.
This message comes from Amazon Health. Late-night internet searches about health issues can send anyone into a spiral. There's another way to get help. Amazon Health AI can connect your symptoms with your medical history, and it can even get you care 24/7. So stop the endless search and get answers and care right when you need it. Amazon Health AI is here. Healthcare just got less painful.
Shannon Sanders' new novel is a story told through ghosts. Multiple generations of a black family who inhabit a spread of land in the fictional Lander County, Tennessee. And on an early page in the novel, a narrator ghost tells us,
"We get to be where our people are, perched on their shoulders, figuratively speaking. Some of our people, at least. We can enjoy, almost limitlessly, our hosts' living bodies, their rich troves of memory. Every dank, private emotion they've ever felt, every buttery, lemony bite of fish they've ever tasted and bothered to remember. And for all intents and purposes, we live here now, on this farm we never got to inherit. Without even trying, we see what happens here, overhear all sorts of conversations, from banal to explosive, better than the best reality TV."
The Great Wherever is the new novel from Shannon Sanders. She's author of the highly praised short story collection Company, and she joins us in our studios in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
Your ghosts are engaging and interesting, and they see a lot, but did you hesitate to have them steer the narrative?
Well, I love a ghost story, and I believe that a lot of readers do too and are hungry for ghost stories in one form or another. They are not scary ghosts. I like to say that right up front. And I think that the idea of spirits and of hauntings, especially of sort of ancestral hauntings, are really exciting to a lot of people. So I leaned into it.
I mean, unless your experience is otherwise, we don't really know how they talk, ghosts.
Well, right. Yes, that makes them fun to write. And it means there's no one to tell me I'm doing it wrong.
There is a human at the center of your story, Aubrey Lamb. She's 32. Works multiple low-paying jobs in Washington, D.C., and we meet her essentially, we're there for the breakup with her boyfriend of 4 years. Then she learns she's a farmer.
Yeah.
Following the death of her father. How's that happen?
She has come to inherit his share of a piece of family property. He had 2 daughters. He left kind of the family suburban house to one, and then to the other, he left this faraway piece of farmland that they really never got a chance to interact with as children when their father was living. But this comes into her life as sort of a surprise.
And does she envy the inheritance that her older sister Bellamy gets?
I would say that almost anyone would envy the house they can see as compared with the farmland that they've never been to and have never given a thought to.
Aubrey is an urban character.
Yes, very much. City girl.
How do the country cousins see her?
Oh, they can tell. They can smell from a mile away that she's a city girl and that she's got some learning to do.
Tell us about Aubrey's great-grandfather, Thomas Lamb.
He was a very entrepreneurial spirit in the town of Serviceberry, Tennessee, which was a community of Black people in the 30s, and he grew up in sort of a tight-knit community of people who all looked out for one another, but he always had sort of an eye toward expanding his imprint, and so he was interested in purchasing a piece of farmland because he thought it would be a nice place for his kids to stretch out and maybe to start to experience something of their own.
And tell us about the ghosts. I'm especially interested in Xena.
Yeah, and so this novel is narrated by a particular ghost, but she is sort of surrounded by these 3 other ghosts representing 4 very different eras. There is Xena, who was enslaved, and she became a ghost shortly before emancipation, and so tragically just barely missed getting to experience life as a free person. That was, of course, a challenging ghost to write, one that I had a lot of trepidation about approaching just because of the seriousness of that idea. that the narrator of the novel is a younger, more contemporary ghost and is sort of more my age mate and has some things in common with me and my peers. That made it both easier and a little less intimidating to approach some of the subject matter of the historical ghosts.
What's the pull of this land over your characters, this family farm in Tennessee? One's owned by whites.
Yeah. Well, land, of course, represents in so many places in literature opportunity and freedom. I think that here it also represents community and the coming together of this family. My extended family co-owns a piece of farmland in Tennessee, and that is where we would gather every couple of years when I was a child. And that might be the only time I saw those cousins or my grandmother's siblings and their relatives. And it was just always a place that we could come back to and sort of connect, and where it was very evident what our shared values were, even as different parts of our lives were extremely divergent.
Speaking of family stories, you wrote something that I found particularly telling. You write, there's no singular, truest version of any family story.
Mm-hmm.
Every version comes with misremembering and projections and savory flourishes.
I think that is one of the things that is most exciting to me as a novelist. With a novel that has this many characters in it, there is the opportunity to see family stories from so many different sides. No one's version is any less accurate in terms of memory or in terms of the way that they experienced it. But as the reader, we get to see sort of a picture come together that nothing is really as any one character tells it.
Against, at least my expectation, the property becomes potentially valuable, profitable for Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
Does that put her at odds with the family of ghosts?
Oh, well, for sure. I think that this is where our ghosts would definitely have a hard time understanding our choices in many ways, because economic reality changes so much, and Aubrey's economic reality is so different from the realities that her ancestors have experienced or expected for her. And so what she might see as valuable about the land is not going to match necessarily what they see as valuable.
Aubrey is seeing a price tag.
Oh, for sure. Yes. A very enticing price tag, because she, like so many people of her generation, is trying to piece together her rent with these little jobs. So why not be excited about the idea of a big windfall?
I was struck by another phrase you have in the acknowledgments. Writing a novel in the quiet night hours is a fumble through the dark with a short candle. Oh, my.
Personally, I have a day job. I have small children. And I did most of the writing of this book truly and literally in the quiet of night after everyone else was asleep, on, sometimes little energy, sometimes with a lot of competing demands.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many reasons not to finish writing a novel because there is so much going on at all times. And so I really applaud anyone who gets to the end.
I don't think I've asked a novelist this question before. Do you still hear from the ghosts?
Oh,
I don't think I've asked anybody that question before, come to think of it.
Well, that's a unique question. I felt a real sense of finality when I finished the end of this book. And I certainly still think about them a lot. It's been really exciting to get to talk to readers who are meeting them. And I think I feel that they are safely situated on that farm at this point.
Totally personal question. Do you hear your family ghosts?
In ways, for sure. My grandmother was one of 6 siblings. She had 2 very influential, very determined parents. They were both educators. They both really cared a lot about education. Mm-hmm. And even though our family is very large and spread out and everyone is doing very different things, I feel as though we are all hearing from them every day. That's the closest I have been to being haunted in the best way.
Shannon Sanders, her new novel, The Great Wherever. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Data IQ. AI agents are transforming how enterprises work. The problem is many operate in secret. The right people rarely know what their agents are doing, if they're doing it right, or that they even exist at all. Data IQ gives companies one place to see, control, and measure every agent across the entire business. Visit dataiq.com/NPR. That's DATAIKU.com/NPR.
Daniel Mason's new novel, Country People, centers on a family heading to start a new life in small-town Vermont. Mason spoke with Here and Now host Robin Young.
Daniel Mason, the author of the best-selling Northwoods, Better Doc, reviewers are once again tossing superlatives at him for his new book, Country People. Flowery phrases like fantastical journey, witty, gentle, and uplifting, and my favorite, pillowy. It's the tale of Kate, a successful Bay Area scholar of Milton and Blake, and husband Miles, who over 14 years has moved from Rabelais to Chekhov to Tolstoy to now Russian folklore in search of a dissertation and a job. Maybe a move to Vermont and a college professorship for Kate will help. You know, the classic opening to a Russian folktale. In a certain kingdom, in a certain land, you will find a magical realm, legendary heroes, or maybe a bunch of Vermonters also searching for a magical realm. Kate, Miles, their 2 kids, and the dog with the face of Will Ferrell decamp to the glorious woods and streams and mountains of Vermont to share deeper lives with country people. The book is Country People, a novel. Daniel Mason, welcome and congratulations.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank
People
you.
are throwing these bouquets at you. Pillowy was my favorite.
It's the first time I've been called pillowy.
That's
Thanks.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and congratulations,
Thank
because
you.
it is I laughed out loud. The wife, Kate, a very successful scholar.
Sure.
The husband, who has the attention span of a bumblebee. You know, he flits from dissertation to dissertation. The New York Times writes that your depiction of the agony and bliss of procrastination is the world-class work of someone who must know. Is this you?
I'm definitely a procrastinator. So this aspect of Miles, where he'll start off on one topic and find himself jumping to the next without even realizing it happened. This is, I think, probably describes most of my days when I'm writing.
On his way to write, he picks up some information about something called the Great Sleigh Fail, and he gets distracted by that. By the way, what was that? Was that real?
Most of the histories are sort of invented in the book.
Well, one of them was purportedly a factory that made all the sleds in the country.
Right.
And then one Christmas day, all the sleighs, as they called them, failed, and all the children, somehow their sleds got separated from the runners all at once.
Right. So this is part of the local legend of this little town that they end up in called Greensbury. There's an old factory there, and like many towns in New England, the factory has been abandoned. And in thinking of writing the backstory for the factory, I decided to make it a sleigh factory that ended with this sort of catastrophic failure, that their rivets one year were substandard. And so all around New England, second temperatures hit this particular threshold. The sleighs fell apart. I love this image sort of everywhere all of a sudden, like you have this fracturing of machinery.
But what about Vermont? You know, they move in on some sort of anthropological expedition that they're going to observe the natives.
So in researching Northwoods, I spent a lot of time in southern Vermont, northwestern Massachusetts, upstate New York. But I think for this book, I was interested in as much as what it's like as what we imagine it to be like. And I think that Vermont has a special place in the American imagination as this pastoral, bucolic place, much of which is true. I mean, it's an extraordinary, beautiful place. But at the same time, I think so many people who go there bring these kinds of preconceptions. And so the book is about these preconceptions as much as it is about the reality.
The wife, Kate, thinks this is going to be good for Miles because he wants to do his latest dissertation about the peasants in Russian folklore. And she kind of says, well, that's good because there will be peasants in Vermont.
Right. So that's sort of the central joke that fires the book, is that's the fantasy that they have.
The joke isn't on the Vermonters.
No. I think the joke in this book is very much on the city people who imagine themselves for a year to be quote-unquote country people.
Talk about this family in particular. Their names again?
They're the Shlevsky-Petrosians. So Miles is actually the grandson of a character in an earlier book that I wrote called The Winter Soldier, where Lucius Shlevsky is a doctor in the First World War, ends up being a very successful physician later in life. Miles, his grandson, is never able to live up to this expectation, I think, that the family might have of him.
Well, no, he is the great disappointment.
He is, yes. I mean, and his wife's, I think sort of frustrated, but they do refer, I think, as you mentioned, to this kind of disappointment. He likes to call it the slight disappointment.
The slight disappointment,
Yes.
that's right. It hasn't moved to great yet.
No, but he's always worried that that's going to happen.
That's going to happen. And they love literature, and they're always quoting it. He sees her as a gymnast. As he watches her think, he thinks of Olympic gymnasts, the way she thinks. She flushes pink, it rises when she's quoting Paradise Lost.
Right.
In fact, I think sometimes that's led them to the bedroom. I think
that's right.
The point.
I think if I'm quoting from books, it's because this is what Miles and Kate's worlds are made of. There are people who love this language. They love these stories. Miles' problem in part is that he loves the stories so much he can't get around to writing anything about them.
And every night he tells stories to his children of these Russian folktales that he should be writing the dissertation about, but they're beautiful, wonderful stories. By the way, do you do that?
I was certainly a storyteller, and I think that I was often accused of the same thing as Miles is accused of, which is letting the story get a little bit out of hand and sort of forgetting that the audience is, 3 or 5. And so he tells these very elaborate stories, some from folktales, some of his own inventions, but at one point tells a story about a mythological figure that changes shape and can masquerade as just about anyone.
Is this the Humbaba?
This is the Humbaba, and which leads his son to start suspecting that everybody might be this kind of Humbaba.
What if your parents?
Right. Who could you trust? And so then this becomes a sort of shorthand in the family for this sort of indulgence in imagination, which can get one into a bit of trouble.
Right. But it feels like it's a setup for what's happening right outside his door. He finally sees, which is a group of Vermonters who have this belief. It competes with Miles' stories.
Right. A hollow earth.
A hollow earth. And it's right under where they live.
Right. There's a portal into this hollow earth somewhere in the Green Mountains of Vermont, in a society which has set out to find this. And Miles' first response is that this is pretty wacky. Eventually he gets drawn in. What he finds is that other people have joined this society for a lot of different reasons. There are people who are lonely. There are people who have sought explanations in mainstream religion and not found them there. But there are a lot of people who are there for a kind of exercise of the imagination, a playfulness.
A what if.
A what if, almost like a costume play. And this is sort of the spirit that he joins in at the beginning, very much the spirit that I think I would join in. I mean, taking a step back from the wackiness of the proposition that the earth might be hollow, like who wouldn't want to join a club that pours through old atlases, that goes spelunking in these gorgeous rainbow-colored marble canyons, that reads ancient texts, that studies old logging, studies old mining. And that's the game to start. Now, people there believe different things. Some believe it's very much true. But the tent is quite expansive. And so this becomes his community.
Is this laying on this human behavior because you're also this professor of psychiatry at Stanford?
Certainly a big concern of the book. One of my interests in writing it was this borderland between imagination and delusion and different forms of belief. Because this is something that, I certainly think a lot about in my academic life. We certainly think about it a lot as a country. I'm always so upset when I read about people sort of believing false beliefs. But at the same time, I love the imagination. I spend all of my writing life making up things that are wrong and fabricated. And so where is this boundary between the imagination and something which is a little bit trickier, perhaps more dangerous?
Well, speaking of things that people believe in that are wrong, enter your character, Wilson Bentley, who thinks he's the reincarnation of the real-life Snowflake Bentley, beloved Vermonter, who photographed snowflakes. The new Bentley has been cataloging history's bad ideas.
Like an inventory of wrong ideas. Yeah. He looks out at the world and he says, wait a second, my doctors are saying me I'm wrong, but most of the world believes many, many things that are wrong. And so I'm going to counter this claim by collecting all the wrong ideas that exist out there in the world already. So he ends up being kind of the voice of reason and a guide for Miles.
There's dogs.
Mm-hmm. I have a very dear dog of the same breed called a Lagotto Romagnolo, and it's a truffle hunting dog. And the only reason we have it is that during the pandemic, when we were looking for a hypoallergenic dog, this was the last one left. All the poodles and labradoodles have seemed to be taken. But what we have is this very lovely dog that's incredibly tuned to the smells of the world. And being around him is this fascinating experience because it's clear that he's existing in a different universe than the one that I'm in, and that I am blind to so much of what's going around.
Which he can smell.
And so we'll sit there and I'll look out and I'll see something, whereas he will just sniff at the breeze, and what's sort of passing through his nose is this incredible narrative of what animals have gone by and won and who they were with. And I mean, this really struck me in wintertime, following him around and seeing the tracks that he was following and realizing all of a sudden that this is the world that he smells all the time. In winter, I could see it. All of a sudden, it became visible to me. But this is what it's like for him. And those are all stories. And so, one, he plays this important role because he's a digging fellow, and this is a book about an underground world. And without giving away any plot points, you can sort of imagine where these two plot lines might collide. But he also provides a kind of other awareness of sort of places and happenings that the human characters can't reach.
Which brings everything together. Because what is the line? In another land?
In a certain kingdom, in a certain land.
Yeah.
Right.
And perhaps what he smells is a paradise lost.
Yeah.
Wonderful. The book is Country People. Daniel Mason, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. Real pleasure to talk to you.
That's it for this week on NPR's Book of the Day. Let us know what you think. You can write to us at bookoftheday@npr.org. I'm Alyssa Nadworny. The podcast is produced by Chloe Weiner and edited by Megan Sullivan. Our founding editor is Petra Mayer. The show elements for this week were produced and edited by Todd Munt, Emiko Tamagawa, Adriana Gallardo, Katie Klein, Melissa Gray, Gabe O'Connor, Ava Pukach, Jacob Fenston, and Danica Panetta. Thank you for listening.
This message comes from Capella University. You know that feeling when there's a spark building inside you, that you were meant for more? That's your own drive, pushing you towards what's next. Capella University gets that. With their FlexPath learning format, you can set the pace and earn your degree without putting life on pause. You've built experience and know what you're capable of. Now, this is your time to turn that momentum into more. The only real question is, what can't you do? Learn more at capella.edu.
This message comes from NPR sponsor, the NPR Wine Club, a place to find boutique wines from around the world and bottles inspired by popular NPR shows, as well as to explore the producers, regions, and exciting stories that bring each selection to life. Whether you buy a few bottles or join the club, all purchases support NPR programming and help fund quality reporting. You can learn more at nprwineclub.org/podcast. Must be 21 or older to purchase.